Hey guys, today I want to talk about the DPS meta after Still Hunt was just nerfed with Celestial Nighthawk. Mostly we're going to be talking about Cloudstrike and where it shines, especially on other characters, because honestly, while the nerf did make hunters weaker, they are still pretty much just the best using the Still Hunt Celestial combo. That said, Cloudstrike is something I noticed that a lot of people seem to be sleeping on and is actually a really powerful option. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how you can use it in rotations and just where it stands as a weapon completely on its own. So first of all, let's go ahead and just understand what Cloudstrike even is. It is an exotic rapid-fire frame sniper, and it has one main special thing that it does, and that is spawning lightning strikes whenever you get a bunch of precision hits. More specifically, it spawns a little lightning storm after 3 hits. This lightning storm actually has 2 parts to it. It has a storm and a barrage, as the terms described on the compendium. And the storm happens very quickly, and then the barrage takes a little bit of time to happen. However, the barrage is also the smaller component. However, it is worth noting that if you spawn another lightning storm before the first barrage is over, it will not spawn another barrage. This means that there is a little bit of a damage bump in total if you are respecting that cooldown. However, you still get the majority of damage even if you are just spamming the weapon. In addition to all of this, the Catalyst also gives it triple tap, which obviously synergizes very well with a perk that triggers on hitting 3 precision hits, so now you get ammo back every time you spawn a lightning storm. This makes the concept of Cloudstrike a very effective DPS weapon, and the numbers back it up and are actually able to make it a very viable weapon in DPS in the current meta. The main reason that Cloudstrike hasn't been effective in the past is mostly just that Izanagi's was better. However, because that is no longer the case, Cloudstrike actually has a lot of room to shine right now. Cloudstrike's total damage is very high, which is something you're looking for in a special weapon right now in this meta, where basically you are pairing a very high total damage special weapon with a very bursty heavy weapon. This is why people use Still Hunt and Apex, or why people might use Cloudstrike and Wendigo. So let's go ahead and look at some of the numbers on Cloudstrike and compare it to some of the popular options for Witness like Still Hunt and Microcosm. So we could see right away just in the sustained tab that across a long damage phase, Cloudstrike is able to do damage faster than and also has more total damage than the Still Hunt if you're not using a Hunter with Celestial Nighthawk. This means that if you're not playing on Hunter, you are going to be better off using Cloudstrike unless a given damage phase is very short. This does have one caveat in the popular boss for these kind of weapons are used often, and that is Final Stand on the Witness. While in the very long damage phase that the Witness has normally, you are definitely better off using Cloudstrike unless you're on Hunter. When it comes to Final Stand, it is better to use Still Hunt on any class because it has much more burst damage over a short period, which is exactly what Final Stand is. And given that the pressure to do DPS quickly is much higher during Final Stand than it is during the regular damage phase of the Witness, it's understandable that people are still using Still Hunt off of Hunter. However, if you already have some people using Still Hunt on your team, then you might be better off just using Cloudstrike through the damage phase to get to Final Stand quicker, where the Hunters can just kind of carry you through Final Stand anyway using their supers and their Celestial Nighthawk Still Hunts. So while Cloudstrike might be a better rotation weapon for those of us who are into doing those sweaty rotations and getting the most damage that we possibly can, what about as a just lazy, simple weapon? Well, Cloudstrike really doesn't disappoint there either, being better than even Microcosm, a comparable heavy weapon. We can see right away just looking at the numbers that Cloudstrike automatically has much faster damage than the Microcosm. And before anybody says it, yes, this was using all of the optimized setups for Microcosm, including using Cenotaph to reload it, and throwing your super for the damage buff. This is just only showing the damage of the weapon and not also the damage of the super, because realistically you could just throw a damage super before any of these weapons and just tack on a ton of damage at the beginning, so we are just comparing the weapons here. That being said, while Cloudstrike does do damage quite a bit faster than Microcosm, it doesn't have the same amount of total damage. However, I think that can be easily fixed because Cloudstrike is in every right literally a special weapon, and you could just do any piece of garbage in your heavy weapon to get the rest of the total damage you need to destroy Microcosm. So overall, I don't think Microcosm is all it's cracked out to be for a lot of people. I know many people have been suggesting it in Witness as a brain dead option, but if you have access to Cloudstrike, I think it is even better, and you could just unload Cloudstrike only and do nothing else, and you would still do better than Microcosm, as long as you just have literally any heavy weapon to switch to after you run out of ammo. And now moving back to my more sweaty players, we're going to talk about the rotations that you can do with Cloudstrike. And Cloudstrike has some interesting properties as a rotation weapon. So the first thing you need to remember is that Cloudstrike basically requires you to shoot 3 shots in order to get its damage perk in the lightning storms. This also allows you to proc triple tap, which does give you back ammo and refill your magazine some, which reduces the amount that you need to reload the weapon, which is very important in a rotation. One of the simplest rotations you can do with Cloudstrike is to simply just do 3 shots of Cloudstrike, switch over to your heavy, unload the heavy, whether that be a Wendigo with Cascade Point, or a Crux Termination using Reconstruction and Explosive Light. You could even use a Hothead with Autoloading Holster and Explosive Light if you don't have the Crux. However, the Crux is going to be quite a bit better because you can unload 2 rockets at the start, and you get an extra shot in your total damage on Crux Termination. In fact, right now Crux Termination even has an unintended way to get even more ammo in the fact that if you do Master Lost Sectors to get the weapon, you can actually get a double perk version that has access to Bipod and Explosive Light together, and whenever you rally with Bipod and then switch over to Explosive Light, you could shoot over 14 rockets with Explosive Light and full damage. That said, even without doing that trick, it's still very powerful on these rockets, and you definitely don't have to do that. While you could use a bait and switch rocket instead, and some might argue that that is better, people are using Explosive Light on the Still Hunt rotation simply because you are not shooting rockets as frequently as you would be normally with other rotations like Izanagi's. However, people have figured out that bait and switch is not applying to the rocket which triggers bait and switch for most scenarios, and so a lot of the time this is reducing your total damage, and while that normally wouldn't be such a big deal, against the current bosses that we're really talking about like Witness, it is a big deal because that boss has such a long damage phase that you are almost always able to unload all your ammo, and you are just trying to get as much damage out of that as you can. That being said, in the future, if we do get a good arc rocket launcher with bait and switch, we'll definitely have to try it out in this rotation. There is something to note about the rotation is that going back and forth between a auto-reloading rocket using either ALH or Recon is not going to be able to load the rocket up after just 3 shots of Cloudstrike. You need an extra like half second of padding. And there are a couple of ways you could achieve this. The first one is to throw some kind of abilities, especially on Warlock. This is super easy to achieve using something like Transcendent. You could basically just do a melee grenade combo, which is a nice little animation cancel that can immediately get you Radiant, unravel the boss, and apply Weaken using the Fascia of Domineering on your Transcendent grenade. Unfortunately, Titan's Transcendent is not very good for DPS because the grenade just doesn't really have a very good delivery for actually hitting bosses, and there's not really any good range melees on Titan. As for Hunter, they can just use the Smoke Bomb and their Transcendent Grenade for a grenade, and they're able to get Weaken and Radiant as well. However, if you're on Hunter, I would still recommend just doing Still Hunt rotations. However, if you're not going to be using abilities, you either can't maintain them, you're not able to get Transcendent, or you're running a subclass which does not get Transcendent, you could also mix in a third weapon, and for that I would recommend either the Lost Signal or the Mountaintop. The Lost Signal does more damage per shot, and you are going to give it time to unload its entire damage per shot by doing the other things in your rotation. It's important to note between the two that Lost Signal only does the same damage as a Mountaintop shot with a comparable perk if it gets to burn for 4 seconds. So if you're shooting your grenade launcher more often than every 4 seconds, you're better off using Mountaintop. It really depends on the rotation you decide to use, which weapon is better for you. One more thing about Lost Signal is that you don't need to hit multiple of the shots that come out of the burst. You can just hit one and you'll be getting the full burn effect for the full time, which means that you can cancel the burst by switching to your next weapon in the rotation, which is going to be a little bit quicker. Anyway, that is going to do it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you did make it to the end, I want to let you guys know I have a Discord server that I am always trying to get more people into. If you guys want to come interact with me, I would love to see you there. And we also have a lot of really cool channels, including a Loadout Links channel, which actually just gives a bunch of build links that you can get from DIM. All the builds that I make in videos are shown there, and there are also some other ones that aren't shown in videos that I've shared as well. So make sure to check it out. I'll have a link in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.